Known as the blonde goddess of Hollywood, Lana Turner had the ability to captivate millions of people with a single look. However, beneath that glittering limelight was a life engulfed in sorrow, scandals, and intense loneliness. In one of her dreams, she saw 7 kids living in a cozy, tranquil house. However, destiny took her instead into a labyrinth of betrayal, failed romantic relationships, suicide attempts, and horrifying abuse. The never-before-seen pictures below show a part of her life that Hollywood made a valiant effort to conceal. See why Lana Turner was more than simply a movie star by watching to the very end. She was a generation's tragic emblem. Lana Turner's first husband, Artie Shaw, was not at all the Prince Charming she had envisioned when they first met. Artie had a strong edge of conceit despite being older, accomplished, and even regarded as attractive by some. Lana also had an innate sense that he wasn't a good man. However, there are instances when one night is sufficient to tear down every barrier you've erected. Artie shared his prior struggles with Lana in the cozy darkness of his automobile. A tale spoken in a low, sorrowful voice that was just gentle enough to warm the heart of a tiny child who only wanted to be heard. It only required that. Lana gave up her skepticism and committed to the most impetuous marriage of her life. She clung to him as though he were a means of escaping her past heartbreaks and eloped with a man she hardly knew. However, that escape soon turned into a jail. Artie was hot-tempered, domineering, and she felt stifled by the silent disdain that lurked beneath nearly every sentence. Living together for 4 months seemed like 4 years. And when they eventually got divorced, worn and depleted, Lana had only one thing to say. Even though Artie is intelligent, he has no idea how to treat ladies. He lost 4 more wives in the ensuing years. And after the fact affirmation that Lana's intuition had always been correct, Lana started a frantic quest for what she referred to as the meaning of love following that first failed marriage. She had already overcome a significant heartbreak by the time she was 19, and her mind kept returning to a previous relationship. Her passionate first love was Greg Butzer. Greg had once asked her to marry him, but with a harsh condition. She had to give up performing. That was something that a poor girl who had utilized every role to escape the shadows of her early years could never consent to. Another part of her crumbled when she discovered Greg wasn't being sincere. Later, Lana acknowledged, life continued on its way, but Greg taught me what it was like to be genuinely hurt. For the first time in years, she felt comfortable making concessions when she met singer Tony Martin. For him, Lana even contemplated abandoning her career, and her tale could have been more compassionate if Tony hadn't enlisted. However, he departed, and Lana attempted to fill the void with short-lived relationships, dating 2 young drummers, one of whom even brought his parents to see her as a sign of his commitment, and walked arm in arm with Tommy Dorsey, the band's leader. However, none of them kept her long enough to restore her faith in love. Lana was soon spotted with Bob Stack before being abruptly snapped next to Howard Hughes, a multi-billionaire. Lana merely chuckled as the rumors continued to circulate. I find men to be fascinating. Anyone who claims otherwise is either a statue or numb. Her remarks simply strengthened the perception that her romantic life was full of unending experiences. However, when Lana featured opposite Clark Gable, another tempest hit before the rumors could subside. One day, Gable's wife, Carol Lombard, showed up on the set of Hunky Tonk without warning. When Lana turned around, Carol's eyes were fixed on hers, accusatory, silent, and unblinking. Lana bolted to her trailer, startled. That fleeting silence became into a scandal, and when Carol passed her in a plane crash not long after, tragedy exacerbated it even more. Rumors of an affair had crushed her, according to several. Lana denied all of it. I respected Gable. We had a good working relationship, but we weren't close friends, she stated firmly, yet the whispers persisted. Lana gradually entered the craziest and most careless phase of her life. Stephen Crane came into her life at this time. He was a man she had met through acquaintances. He attended parties, lingered in talks, and gradually became to be a familiar figure in the house she shared with her mother. Lena's late-night partying had worn MGM out, so she started limiting her activities, which only encouraged Stephen to come. He was immediately appreciated by Lana's mother, and when a mother gives her approval, Lena's journey to love always seems to pick up speed. In 1942, they got married after fleeing to Las Vegas. A rare moment of happiness in Lana's erratic life happened shortly after she became pregnant. But when she discovered the heartbreaking reality, that delicate peace broke. Stephen's former wife had never been formally divorced. The marriage that Lana lovingly described as her new beginning proved to be nothing more than a deep lie covered in a shiny layer of paint. The media pounced on her like vultures on a corpse when the truth was revealed. Lana felt ashamed, as if everyone was looking at her, stuck in a catastrophe she had no idea how she got into. Many people were unaware that Lana chose to be Catholic rather than being born that way. Additionally, she wanted her unborn child to be born into a marriage that the church recognized as lawful. What then did Lana do? pressuring Stephen to properly complete his divorce, she remarried him. However, the marriage was irreparable, even after the birth of their daughter Cheryl. Lana's confidence had been completely damaged by Stephen's deceit. She attempted to fix it, but she was unaware that additional mysteries lurked behind the veil. Lana discovered a startling reality when she went to Stephen's hometown. Despite his boasts, Stephen was not the heir apparent to a tobacco business. He was a total liar. Unemployment was one of Lana's stated reasons for filing for divorce in 1944. However, Lana reverted to her old behaviors even before the divorce was official. She dated other guys throughout the course of the following 2 years, sometimes concurrently. She dated John Hodiak during the divorce process, but she acknowledged that she was merely using him to get out of the marriage. She dated Taryn Bay as well, but they were split up by his mother. Robert Hutton followed by Peter Lawford. Lana met Tyrone Power, the love of her life, in 1946. They were acquainted. They had spoken briefly when they first met a few years prior. Tyrone was married at the time, so Lana controlled her feelings and never allowed them to get out of control, even though she had liked him from the start. Then Tyrone invited Lana to dinner one evening while they were going through a breakup. Though there was still a tinge of doubt in her heart, she accepted without question. But when Tyrone kissed her for the first time, all of her worries vanished. Lana poured herself into the affair with all the innocence and intensity that only a once broken heart could give. Later, she would add, "I knew my heart would never be the same again." She once traveled alone to Mexico to spend a few hours with Tyrone in between his demanding filming schedules since she loved him so much. He was the most elegant, endearing, and kind man she had ever encountered. He was the love Lana had been longing for her entire life. Lana genuinely thought that life had finally favored her when she learned she was expecting, but that happiness was soon dashed. Tyrone was not prepared for a child, even though he loved Lana and was as enamored with her as any man who had ever met her. He had recently ended his first marriage, his feelings were still jumbled, and he had no desire to get into another legally bound agreement. Above all, Lana was unaware of how much he understood her. She would never consent to having an unmarried child, and that in itself made the gap between them insurmountable. Lana did the one thing that plagued her for the rest of her life. Despite her heartbreak, she stopped the pregnancy discreetly. She wrote Tyrone a letter when he was on vacation. A few icy phrases that concealed innumerable restless nights and uncontrollable tears. But Lana took another hit when Tyrone came back. He acknowledged that he had developed feelings for a different woman. What broke Lana the most, she later stated, was that no man, except perhaps Tyrone, ever took the time to find out that I was a human being, not just a pretty little thing to look at. Lana entered into another marriage in 1948. This time it was Henry J. Bob Topping Jr., one of the richest men in America at the time and the heir to a well-known steel dynasty. Their union appeared to the general public to be a contemporary fairy tale. Bob was nearly compulsive in his love for Lana, indulging her with every little thing. For the first time in all of Lana's marriages, he offered her a wedding that was truly worthy of her, grand, sparkling, and brimming with well wishes. He also threw costly parties and took her on opulent yacht cruises. Then, in early 1949, Lana became pregnant as if by magic. She thought that this would be the new beginning she had always wanted, a full family. But there was no mercy from fate. Lana was devastated by the silent birth of their first baby, a stillbirth. The tragedy was extensively covered by the media. They were unaware, however, that Lana sobbed herself to sleep each night until she was too tired to continue. She became pregnant a second time around 1951. But disaster struck once more. Newspapers fluctuated between referring to it as a miscarriage and a stillbirth. But the suffering was the same regardless of the terminology. Another kid had died for Lana. Her body was weak and her spirit was slipping into a darkness from 2 consecutive heartbreaks from which she was unable to recover. And Bob went to booze instead of embracing her and sharing her grief. He drank so much that he disappeared for whole nights and was frequently spotted with other women, leaving Lana completely alone in the magnificent house she had always imagined. The use of explosive arguments became commonplace. Bob became someone she didn't recognize, and Lana became more and more exhausted every day. They split up at the end of 1951. Lana was driven to the brink by the weight of her loss, treachery, and unending loneliness. She ingested sleeping pills one night with the intention of ending everything in a moment of unspeakable anguish. Fortunately, she made it to the hospital in time and lived. However, she subsequently said that it was the lowest point in her life. Eventually, the once idyllic marriage ended in a low-key dissolution in 1952, leaving behind painful scars that would never completely heal. Although Lana Turner's fourth marriage started out as a romantic fantasy, it turned out to be the most difficult period of her life. After Lex Barker's boisterous public divorce, she encountered him at a party full of congratulations and chilly lighting. An unexplainable pull began to develop between them the instant they laid eyes on one another. There was an intense, unmistakable spark that gave Lana, who had previously experienced a great deal of heartache, hope for a fresh start. Just a few months later, they strolled around Europe's peaceful streets as though they were penning a late-blooming fairy tale. were married when they came back to Hollywood. Everything appeared ideal to a lady who was all too accustomed with failed promises. After being pregnant, Lana's desire to become a mother again was momentarily stoked, but it was dashed after she lost the child. She was so exhausted by the sadness that she turned to her work as a means of self-preservation. She was away from home most of the time for 2 years, sometimes filming in far-off locations, and other times traveling with Lex. This was not what she had anticipated. Cheryl, her daughter, felt protected only on such trips. Lana thought the guy she had selected would protect her home, but in reality, it was concealing a terrible secret. Cheryl had been subjected to frequent abuse by Lex Barker, leaving the little child terrified and unable to flee. Cheryl could no longer put up with it at the age of 13. She told her grandmother everything. Lana broke when she learned the truth. Anguish, remorse, and rage all clashed inside her. At that moment, she wanted nothing more than to kill Lex.